Alright, it's 10:04, so let's go ahead and get started. First off, dang, I was hoping I would, how do I do this? Okay. First, a quick animation reset. There we go.
Nice.
You're dead, stop talking.
It's okay, he died. There we go. Cardiac arrest, you know, drag the health down. It works. Oh no, a student died. Better call the insurance. Okay, so let's we're gonna do AT first, then Grenadier. This will probably take about an hour, maybe a little over. Depends how many questions you guys have, and feel free to ask them, by the way, because that's the environment that I try to promote here. So, before we even shoot any AT, I gotta talk about different types of armor because TSB makes me. So, what type of armor does this Gorgon have?
Flat.
Slat, cage, however you call it. Basically, it's a giant perimeter cage that goes around the vehicle, and it helps prevent HE and HEAT warheads from, penetrating into the main armor and killing the crew. When you see slat cages, the times you're going to see them is usually with vanilla vehicles or in World War II IFA ops, which are starting to come back because we finally updated its mod set, so keep an eye out for those. Do note, however, that for most of the vehicles in the IFA mod set, the slat cages put on them kind of count as the actual hull itself, but one day they're going to update to be more like vanilla, in which case, you know, if you hit the slat cage, it'll actually show a damage texture, so your second shot can, hit the hull if that's what you really need to do. This armor you're going to see a lot more often, especially in your modern ops. What type of armor does this Bradley have? Reactive. Basically, these nice little chemical panels here that, you know, when you hit them, chemical reaction happens. It redistributes the explosive energy along the panels instead of inside the hull, and thus the crew can survive a single hit. However, these panels, they do have damage textures, so if you constantly hit them in the same spots, they will be less and less effective and eventually kill the crew. So, if you're an AT guy, where do you not want to hit the vehicles?
In its armor.
And its armor, so not in the slat cage, not in the thingamajig. Front, sometimes that is somewhere you want to hit it, depends on where the engine is. There are some APCs and IFVs where the engine is on the front. I think the Bradley is one of them, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
Bradley
is.
said just right.
I think
right
Merc
Yeah.
has too.
Then in that case, you want to hit it in the front. But does anyone know which subsystem is the best one to hit? Well, I already gave it away. It's the engine. If you can get an engine shot, depending on what type of vehicle it is, normally for most vehicles it's in the back. Again, the Bradley is kind of an exception, but think of it this way: if it's carrying personnel, such as a Bradley, a Gorgon, or BTR, then you try to want to hit them in the front because more often than not the engine texture is in the front. For IFVs and tanks, the engine is usually in the back, but again, that's dependent on if it can carry infantry or not. So, also, best place to hit a vehicle is usually from the top because the roof armor is usually the most thin. So if you can get some elevation on your target and just get a top-down shot, that is going to give you a golden hit and either a catastrophic, which means it blows up, or a crew dismount, which is a mobility kill. Now, if you can't get a shot on the engine, do you know the second best place to hit a vehicle?
The
The
gun.
turret.
The turret. Because if you hit the turret and disable the turret, then it's just a very expensive, slow-moving APC. Whether that be an actual APC or a tank, in which case it's a 3-person APC for the, tank crew. Anyone know the third best place to hit the vehicle?
The tracks.
The tracks.
Have some of you taken my fucking training before? Yes, the tracks or the wheels. Because if you're in that level of situation where you can't get an engine hit or a turret hit, and honestly, at that point, usually shit's kind of hitting the fan too, and you're trying to pull back, you want to kill its mobility. so you can, you know, pop smoke and get away. Plus, if you disable it, usually the crew isn't going to be smart enough to repair it. That's dependent on what type of op you're doing. If you're doing vanilla, the crew will actually get out and repair it. Sometimes with certain modded ops too, depending on how good the mod is. I know 3CB crews will actually like dismount and repair it very quickly, but that's also a golden opportunity to, you know, kill the crew. But it's all situational. Anyone have any questions on where to hit vehicles in any situation? Okay. Now, some notes on the range. First off, there are 6 flags, each flag representing 50 meters. Do note there are targets further back because we get into stuff like missile launchers, okay? We also, I haven't done this before, but I'm putting clumps of infantry together for you to test things like thermal barrack ammunition and all that other jazz. We'll get there eventually. But I have 5 modules here. First is going to be the short stuff with rockets, and then we're going to go all the way up to AA missile systems. So, yeah. Anyone have any questions on the range?
Negative.
Cool.
Nope.
Now, this box is a basic arsenal, so it's a scroll wheel option. It's not ace, because I never updated it. Also, it's a good reminder that we still use that arsenal once in a while, because, you know, reasons. Even though ace is pretty much superior in every way. So, this little module here talks about your single-shot disposable AT. You normally see this AT given to people like team leaders in squads, special forces, or smaller squads of 6 or even 4 when the need for a reloadable AT man is on a lower priority. For example, Spec Ops, if you're, you know, infiltrating a base or something, maybe you're given 1 or 2 sticks of AT because you're meant to sneak up on the vehicle and hit it for a surprise attack, but you don't need, you know, reloadable AT because it's too heavy for what you're going to be doing. So if you're being a mobile element, you're probably going to use this AT and not have the reloadable AT or actual missile launchers. Now again, do note this isn't going to be every launcher you see in the game. We add mods, major mods, I want to say every 3 months to the realism mod set, and there's also your mod sets for, you know, Vietnam, IFA, futuristic stuff. So this is all kind of a baseline. If you look over ammunition types or launchers, it can give you some hints whether or not they're rocket or missile launchers, and, you know, go from there from what you learn in here. But anyway, let's talk about the AT. So, first set of AT we have is the Blue 4 RHS stuff. The U.S. Armed Forces, we have the M136 and the M72A7. Now, the 136s are interesting because there's actually a bunch of different types. For the sake of this arsenal, I have the HEAT and HEDP to make a clear distinction between the two. HEAT represents High Explosive Anti-Tank. If you ever see AT in the name, that is your general go-to for types of AT to use against vehicles such as armor, tanks, blah blah blah. If you see something like HEDP, High Explosive Dual Purpose, this means that the HE is intended for either vehicles or infantry, or building clearing, dependent on the situation. More often than not, you're going to want to bring HEAT because the HEDP can be left to things like Grenadiers and whatnot, which we'll get to in the second training, but that is the distinction. Really, when you kit up and you're given something like an arsenal or an inventory of, you know, stuff in a crate to take, it's going to be based on what your squad leader wants for you to take, you know, something specific. Now, another thing unique about these launchers is if you pull one out and look down range, you'll notice that if you spam the mouse button like this, it's not going to fire. Your sights aren't even up, it's not even primed. If you also hit the I button, you'll notice that there's actually no ammo in your launcher. In fact, the ammo is in your uniform. You have to hit the R key to prime the sights, and that also technically reloads the launcher. So what you just did is a reload animation to put that one warhead from your uniform to your launcher. Now, there is a way in CBA to make these launchers reloadable. We don't put that in there because realism, blah, blah, blah. But essentially, what it does is after you fire this, it turns it from the launcher you're using to a quote-unquote used one, which cannot be reloaded anymore. So it's just a little script thing. So after you fire this puppy, you can then drop it and then, you know, continue on. Personally, when I have this type of AT, I try to use it ASAP to give myself more stamina, but it's also dependent on the mission. So, Same thing goes with the M72A7. If you pull it out, you will have to prime it the same way. It also puts the sights up and lets you adjust accordingly. So, those are your standard Blue 4 launchers. Now, next launcher on the list, we have the RBR M80. I'm going to skip a little bit down and also mention the RPG 75. These are pieces of shit, in the sense that the rounds that they fire aren't really meant for anti-tank. They're more meant for anti-gun truck, anti-APC, or anti-infantry, and they suck. So if you're ever given the, chance to pick something between an M72A7, like Fiberglass Law, or something like an RBR or a 75, pick the Law, because these are just glorified Grenadier rifles that fire only a single shot. If you fire this at like an IFE, for example, it's just going to laugh at you. The RPG-26, this is the Russian equivalent of the M72A7. Their reloadable AT is the RPG. We'll get to that in Module 3. And then you have a unique launcher, the RSHG-2. Now, this puppy is usually given to Grenadiers and fires what I like to call a big suck round. It is a thermobaric warhead which, when detonated, sucks out all the oxygen in the area around it and pretty much insta-kills infantry regardless of body armor. Especially with the latest update for medical, where, now your chest rig only protects your head. This does massive damage to people's heads and almost always will insta-kill. It's very nice. It's very deadly, but we'll talk more on thermobaric stuff throughout both the AT and Grenadier courses. But if you need to kill infantry and you have the option, thermobaric is definitely the way to go. Now, I'm going to go over how to properly fire a launcher, for those of you that ignored it in basic, because I still see it ignored here. First off, backblast is a thing, so you cannot fire a launcher like this, because the backblast will go into the ground and hit you and you'll go unconscious. You cannot fire a rocket launcher like this, because the backblast will hit the bracket of this Bradley and hit you. So, how to properly fire: you sight your target, you yell clear backblast, don't sight in, you look behind you, left and right, someone's next to you, they'll yell backblast clear, so even if they do that, you still want to check behind you because you don't know what's going on. It's good behavior. Then you yell rocket, 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 and then you pull the trigger. Now, in case you don't know, page up and page down, that's how you adjust sights. It'll tell you in the top right. We keep those options there because we're nice. And otherwise, that's it. Now, in order to avoid backblasts, I'd highly recommend you stand shoulder to shoulder, kind of like where Renegade and I are right now. You don't go behind Renegade, because that'll put you in the backblast arc. It will tell you in Ace Arsenal what backblast arcs are for every rocket launcher. They are not 100% accurate, so be aware. One last thing I'll say about these single-shot disposable ATs. You don't want to fire them really against armored ERA tanks. ERA tanks being the ones with reactive panels and stuff, because they'll more often than not kind of just tickle them, unless you can get an elevated shot on the engine. But these are meant to be your, oh shit, the AT guy missed, or, your special forces. You have to deal with that one enemy vehicle that's in the AO. So this is the one where the one shot really does count. Any questions on single shot AT? Alright, so I'm going to clear you on the range. I'll be respawning things as they get blown up or killed. I would highly recommend you go into the arsenal. Not only touch the, the US ones, but also get a feel for what I'm talking about with the RBR M80 and the RPG 75. Get a shot off the RSHG-2, get a feel for everything. And just remember, there is the virtual arsenal in Arma 3, so if you ever have any, concerns about a specific launcher, you can always boot that up, load it, and then it'll give you some vanilla AAF vehicles to shoot at. So, anyway, range is now clear. I want to hear you guys clearing your fucking backblast. Also, earplug check. But if all of you fire at once, yeah, you're gonna get a little bit of ringing, so good luck, have fun.
Well then. Clear.
Oh, shut up, Nimia. People actually do call rocket, rocket, rocket in this community, so.
Clear.
So all of the Chads died. that's a BTR 80, so it's pretty armored in the front.
Clear back blast.
That was a miss. There's the cook-off.
Clear.
Walk up.
Clear back blast.
Crossing.
Oh yeah, one last thing, guys, real quick. If you ever need to cross someone, if you need to cross their front, you yell crossing. So that's like a machine gunner or something. If you... Hold up. If you need to cross behind someone that's firing a rocket launcher, yell crossing behind. So, fun facts. Let's give him a warm welcome, shall we?
Clear. Also clear.
Big suck round strikes again. So the difference, I want to point something out real quick. Someone fired HEDP at that crowd earlier, and most of them were still alive, just in cardiac arrest. Someone just fired a big suck into that same crowd, and they are all, like, dead. So, yeah, big suck is OP.
They are also very loud.
Yep.
Clear. Clear back blast.
Only because I love you. Aw, thanks, Nim. I bet that was sarcasm. Let's give him a warm welcome, shall we?
Was fun.
Clear block lost.
I'm drinking a little bit of water just to stay hydrated.
All the wood.
So that one got all of them except
Thing
one.
with The 136 heat. If you press the backslash on your numpad, you get a better sight. But if you've got the heat round, if you've got the M136 heat, and you press the backslash, you'll have a better sight.
So that's the backslash on your numpad, by the way. Some of these rocket launchers, similar to scopes, have alternate sights. So to access them, you hit the backslash on your numpad. It's in between numlock and the asterisk if you have an American keyboard. Otherwise, if you just hold, I think, left control and right click, it also toggles through sights.
And the divide button.
Aw, Nim.
Clip.
Any tips for an inspiring Halo mission maker?
Crossing back.
Honestly, I would say find something cool in lore and make a story out of it. So, for example, the the Harvest incident, where it was a prologue and a two-piece op because they went through the entirety of the Colo map. I based that off of, you know, what if I watched a video about the Spartan Headhunters, some of the most brutal, nitty-gritty, deadly Spartans that Oni ever had, and I made a scenario of what if one of them, you know, had beef with the UNSC. So I made this nice little campaign behind it, and I gave it a little bit of a... That one got it. Yeah, a little bit of a bittersweet end. You know, it depends on what you want to do. I personally, when I do stuff like Optray, I try to make it a little lore accurate. Not that much though, because I like my creative freedom. But I find something and I build off of it specifically.
Clear back blast.
It was gonna be like UNSC versus Covenant. I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't do anything Covenant related yet. I'd wait till we have all the alien models and more guns, but you do you. Like I'm not doing anything really Covenant related until I have that stuff, you know? Now I know there's a mod out there that that Article 2 Studios hates because it like has literally a bunch of ripped stuff from like the Halo games, but it actually has the alien models. If I had my hands on that, I would definitely be using it. I had an opportunity to play an op with it, but I was out of town. Yeah, Grays, what I'd also recommend is there's a campaign I started last week, though kind of it boofed itself because vanilla armor values with the base
Yeah.
game now with the Ace update are stupid. But get your own alien models. Like, it doesn't have to be Covenant. Make a different alien faction and balance things together, you know?
Clear backblast.
That's what I'm doing for this campaign, and I think it's going to go really well.
Cross back.
Alright, let's bring it in. Range is not clear, not clear. Tell Corporal to come down. Alright, cool. Gonna give everyone a quick heal. So, single shot AT. What are your thoughts? Lord Raven, I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking.
In case of an emergency, otherwise not to be used, really.
Hard to aim in beyond 150 meters.
Yep, this is your short range AT that... Oh, someone just died.
Let's stay them.
Again, really good against older Vics, really good against Vics when you're up close, but otherwise they've developed more powerful rocket and missile launchers for, you know, more advanced stuff. So again, just your oh shit AT. Let's go to the next section. This is your AT that's normally given to AT men in a squad. It is your reloadable AT. Key differences between the last module and this one is A, like I just said, it's reloadable. B, we're going to start talking about built-in range finding systems. Those ones really just had iron sights that you would pull out and just guess because it's close range. These can be effective up to a click if you know how to use them properly. And we'll talk about different range find systems. And 3, they have different types of ammunition, so you'll start seeing distinctions between AT rounds and HE rounds. AT being against vehicles and HE usually being against infantry. So, I'd like everyone to pull out the RPG-32. Either will do as I pull this puppy out and look down range. So, actually before I even do that, first I want you guys to notice if you go to backpack, you have RPG-42 rockets and RPG-42 HE rockets. Now, if you have something like this, where one just says rocket and then one distinguishes itself as HE, assume the one that doesn't distinguish itself is your standard AT rocket, because rocket launchers are meant to kill vehicles first and not infantry. So, with that, your RPG-42 rocket is your anti-vehicle warhead, and then your HE-1 is against infantry. I'll let you fire both after I finish this module, just to let you guys get a feel for it, but I digress. Let's talk about the sight. So, now, if you look down the sight, a few things I want to point out. First off, that big plus on the top, that's the bore sight. That is, if you were to fire the rocket point blank, you want to aim it on that bore sight because that's where the rocket's going to go. So, you know, if you're doing CQB stuff or whatnot, or the vehicle charges you. And then you have the numbers 1 through 5 going down the list and a bunch of little mini pluses to help you aim accordingly at the ranges of 100 to 500 meters, which is what is represented by the 1 and 5. What you'll also notice is that there seems to be a gap in 2 lines that gets shorter and shorter as you look down to the 5. Now, this is a built-in range finding system, and in my opinion, it's the worst one that we're going to talk about today. This launcher was designed for you to aim at vehicles from the side. Now, I don't teach this anymore. I don't really give examples of it because there's a lot of vehicles that are varying lengths inside. But the whole premise of it is if you can fit the front to the back of this of the vehicle that you're firing at, if you have a perfect 90 degrees off the side view of it, if you can fit it in between, let's say, the 1.5 meters accurately, then you aim at the 1.5. Now, like I said, there's a lot of different vehicles at a lot of different lengths, so this isn't the most accurate thing in the world, but that's the premise behind this type of built-in range finding system. It's also probably going to be the only one you see for this one vanilla launcher specifically, because I've never seen it in any other launcher system, because, again, it's very inaccurate. But technically, since this is ranged up to a 5 on the bottom, this is effective up to 500 meters before you then have to start guessing. Anyone have any questions on this quote-unquote range finding system? Okay, let's go to the next launcher. I'd like everyone to grab a Mod 0 Sand Moz. As you do that, if you go in the backpack, you'll see that you have a heat round, which is 75, and an HE44. Do also note there is a different type of HEAT round. I think it's the 66. The difference is that it is
55.
the... Oh, it's the 55, my bad. But the difference
55.
is that it doesn't have the little penetrator cap on the left side of that round. We'll get into that more in the RPG section when we talk about tandem heat rockets, but the whole point of that penetrator cap is to penetrate the armor of the vehicle, and then the rest of the warhead detonates and kills everyone inside and does massive damage to subsystems. But for now, just focus on the HEAT and the HE44 for the Moz. Again, HEAT and HE respectively. Now, for this launcher, if you go down the site, you'll notice it's effective up to 1,000 meters, which is really, really nice. Now, let's see.
Sorry about that, my game just had a spaz attack.
You're good. Grab a Mod 1 Sand Moz. I'm going to quickly look at my range here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. So I'd like everyone to look at that BMP over there. When I say over there, I mean it's the BMP-2. If you look to the left, behind it, you have a radar dish. We don't have compasses, so I can't give you a bearing. It's left of that gun truck. Now, if you notice on your sight for the Moz, you have on the right side a solid red line, and then a 200, 400, 600, 800, and 1,000, respectively. What that is supposed to mean is if you line up the bottom of the vehicle with the top of the vehicle, it's supposed to give you a little built-in range. Now, here's the issue. It's technically supposed to be the bottom of the Vic, not counting the tracks, to the top of the Vic, that, not counting the Metis launcher on the top of its chassis to chassis. The issue is some vehicles, like the other rangefinder we just talked about, have different lengths of, you know, how much the tires or treads allow for space on the bottom of the Vic. So again, a little inaccurate. However, if you were to line up bottom to top, you'd notice it fits in pretty well with the 200 meter marker, which, if you count the flags, it is approximately 200 meters away. So you would then, you know, sight it like that and then just point and shoot at the 200 meter mark. I try to go for the, you know, turret for a shot like this because you're still being a bit inaccurate. Now, we'll talk about that system again with the RPG because that's the one it uses. But basically, line up the bottom of the Vic with the top of the Vic. You can fit it inside. That's your standard range. Now, anyone have any questions on that type of range finding system? No? Okay. Now we're going to talk about the... Yeah, go ahead.
In combat, do you actually have time to do that?
Oh, you will. If the vehicle, for example, if you're fighting a checkpoint, the vehicle is, you know, just stationary on a checkpoint, you have a few seconds. And it does sound like, you know, when you're in the heat of battle that you don't have that much time, but you just got to take a breath, line it up, and then if you do it multiple times and build the muscle memory, it'll catch up.
Alright.
Trust me, you've got some really good AT guys in this community that do stuff just like that. But now let's talk about the Mod 1 Moz. This one takes everything I just said and throws it out the window, because if you scope in, it's similar sight up to 1,000 meters, but if you hit the T key, it gives you that range. So if you were to hit the T key on the BMP over there, depending on where you're looking, if you do the front tip of the armor, you get 198 meters. If you hit the turret chassis, it's 202, but again, solidifying of how that built-in rangefinder system works. And then for these, since it has the upside-down V sights, you would just aim the top of the V and fire accordingly. Anyone have any questions on how to hit the T key and get a laze?
Well, it's not working for me.
Okay, you're gonna have to check your vanilla key bindings and see what that is. If you were to go into controls, go to weapons, it's laze range, which is, if you scroll all the way down, it would be the third option from the top. So whatever button you have set to laze range is your button.
It's a hatch.
Alright, so I am going to clear you on this AT, guys. Feel free to try it out. I'm going to stand over here. Range is now clear. I encourage you to try both the Moz and the RPG, but I'll be respawning stuff as you blow it up. So, have fun. Range is clear.
Can I hit the TU-95?
You can try to hit whatever you want.
Clear back fast. Clear.
Clear back blast.
Corporal. Clear.
Breaking, yeah, for our realism mod set, which is now the main mod set, you do need global mobilization because now we have realism and Cold War kind of merged together, and global mobilization has a lot of good assets for Cold War era stuff. There it goes. So yeah, I would get it if it's on sale, but otherwise, yeah, we also do require contact DLC if we do maps in Livonia, and since that's a new map, a lot of people are flocking to it. But we also did recently update the mod set, so now we have a lot of new maps, so a lot of people aren't gravitating towards Livonia anymore. Oh, someone hit him dead on. So, you know, it depends on what assets are being used and blah, blah, blah.
Clear back left.
Clear. Clear back left.
The Chads are scared! Amazing. Absolutely amazing, guys. So, what did we learn? I bet we learned a really valuable lesson just now.
Liru, what I learned is I need to make sure my touchpad is off before I try to play Arma.
Yeah, alright, guys. You need to learn not to fucking misfire a rocket into your squad, because this is what the fuck happens. So proud of you all.
Okay, Liru.
As long as it's in training.
Do you guys want more time to shoot, or have I made my point about launchers?
Clear.
I'm good.
Okay.
I think you've made your point.
So, what's the difference between single-shot AT and reloadable HE?
Reloadable has a longer range.
Reload it.
Longer range, you can reload it, has built-in rangefinders, it's everything I already went over. Anyone have any questions on anything we've gone over so far? Someone misfired into the ground. Yeah, Contact was a great DLC. GM should be on sale right now, but digressing. Let's talk about RPGs. So, here's the deal. RPG is a very unique weapon because it is pretty much the skill curve of it's very easy to learn but very difficult to master. However, if you master it, it is probably the deadliest and most versatile rocket launcher, if not AT weapon platform in this game, unless you have an OP-ass javelin. So, a few things to note. Make sure you grab an RPG and a PG-07B3 sights. Do note that there are like 5 different sights for the RPG, give or take. That's because the RPG is a very old rocket launcher. It's a good like 50 years old, give or take. But they constantly develop new types of warheads for it. And we'll talk about them in a second, but some have, you know, sight lines for specific warheads. But the PG-07V3 has sights for all of them because, you know, it's the modern sight for it. Now, I'm going to go over the warheads. If you were to go to your backpack, you can follow along, but we have a lot of different types. First off, you have your PG-7V. This is your standard heat warhead. This was the one that originally came with the launcher decades ago. That was meant to kill your Sheridan tanks or your M113s, you know, lightly armored stuff back in the day. However, people started making things like BMP-2s and thicker armored vehicles. So the Russians thought, okay, let's make a PG-7VL warhead, which is also known as your improved heat. This is meant to kill things like non-ERA Bradleys or armored IFVs such as BMP-2s and really pack a punch. However, the US government said, ooh, look, we have ERA reactive armor, and we have Abrams now, and we have Bradleys with ERA armor. So the Russians thought, okay, we'll counter that with the PG-7VR rocket, your tandem heat. Now, if you notice, if you know what the third Maz warhead was that I was talking about, the PG-7VR has your penetrator cap. So that first cap is meant to hit the armor and then penetrate inside, and then that main warhead's meant to detonate. If you also compare it to the TBG, you'll notice that it is a pretty similar warhead in that regard, but we'll get there. Now, the Russians also realized that infantry exists, so they made, in my opinion, the most overpowered HE round in the game, the OG-7V. This thing has a very ridiculous AoE effect, and it will pretty much slaughter unarmored infantry. If they're Russian body armored, though, they can tank it a bit more with the latest ACE update. But if you're fighting like Durka people or whatnot and you use that against them, it'll turn them into Swiss cheese. And then, for your armored targets, the Russians have the Big Suck round, your TBG-7V, thermobaric. You fire this in a building, it's going to kill a lot of people. You fire this in a crowd of people, it's going to suck out all the oxygen and flay their lungs. So, if you have armored targets and have the option to bring these puppies, and you're going to be doing stuff in CQB, you want to bring this round. If you're going to be doing stuff at a little bit of a longer range, up to about 300 meters, give or take, you want to bring OG-7Vs. Now, next two rounds, you never want to touch. The Type 69 Airburst is a HET round. We'll get to that in Grenadier training, but essentially it hits the ground and then it bounces up like a bouncing Betty and detonates. The bounce gives it more surface area for the shrapnel to go farther. Let the Grenadiers handle that level of stuff. You're there to kill tanks, not kill infantry. And then you have your PG-7VM heat grenade. These are your vanilla warheads for the vanilla RPG. They're the equivalent of the RBR or the RPG-75 single-shot launchers, in which they will just tickle things. So don't use these unless your purpose is to try to decrew vehicles because you're doing a theft campaign, which is my term for guerrilla warfare where you're trying to steal vehicles and shit. Any questions on warhead types? We need them on the front, yeah, right? Alright, let's consult the graph. Why talk about it when I can just put it on a fucking graph and show it to you? So, original site, you have the PG-7VM. If you ever see an M symbol on your site, it's referencing the original PG-7V warheads. So, these are usually effective up to 500 meters following these lines. And then you have your bore site at the top, which is where your warhead's going to go if you need a fire point blank for whatever reason. So, this warhead has an effective range of 500 meters. Now, on the other side, you have the PG-7VL, the improved heat. It is a heavier round. So, it takes less distance to be ranged at the same area as the PG-7B because it's heavier and flies a little bit slower. If you really want to see a speed test, I'd recommend firing a PG-7V on the range and then firing either a thermobaric or tandem heat. Actually, I'd recommend the tandem heat. You will notice that they fly at much different speeds. Which, in all honesty, I think this is the only launcher that really showcases that, because the other ones fire usually at the same speeds, but I digress. So, if you ever have this N symbol, or I like to call it the pi symbol without the tail, that is for your PG-7VL. Now, if you have frag rounds, they follow these three circled areas on all of the sites respectively. I forget what the symbol for it is on the top of my head, but it goes to 100, 200, and 300 meters for the entirety of that line. Do also note, right next to me is another built-in rangefinder system, but they have it for each 100-meter line. Also, they're a little curved, so it gives you kind of a bit of wiggle room, which, you know, the what was it? The Maz Mod 0 does not. So if it, falls into that line, it's pretty much that range. But do also note when you get up to 1,000 meters, gets a little bit tough. Also note that, the longest shot you're going to make with this launcher accurately is 500 with the PG-7V. So this rangefinder is more so to let you know how far the enemy Vic is away from you. And then you have your TBG. Yep.
One thing that rangefinder isn't actually for vehicle, that's an infantry rangefinder. The average height of a man.
I'll fact check that, but I'll change my training accordingly if that's the case. No one's ever told me that. I'll look that up. Thank you. Okay, and then you have your TBG-7V and your PG-7VR, which are your thermal barrack and tandem heats respectively. They follow these two sights on the bottom. And like I said, they fire very, very slowly, and they're very, very heavy, so that's why they're ranged all the way down here on your sight. Any questions on anything this chart says? Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, well, feel free to try the launchers out. Again, I would first recommend you do a 7V and then a 7VR, but I'm going to give you a little bit of time. You can do whatever you want. Make sure you clear your backblast.
Clear. Clear black glass.
Look.
The bot lost.
Clear. Clear backblast. Come on, through the railing.
Now, if you see the Vic smoking like that, the crew's going to dismount. That usually means an engine hit.
Clear black glass.
Clear. Clear backblast.
Clear.
The bot lost.
Clear. Why is there a goat?
It's Liru. 7-8 killed team 6.
I mean, I put the goats down a while ago. They've just been ambiently walking around, so...
Clear backblast.
Because it's
That's
Liru. I
cool.
mean, why wouldn't it be Liru?
Clear black.
Yeah, so he shot it right there and it killed all of them.
Clear black glass.
Clear. Clear backblast.
The bot lost.
Clear.
Ow. Hey, let's go.
Oh my god, one of them's actually using the air burst. Why? Why would you do that?
It is clear.
It's literally a mortar round.
The bot lost.
Ugh.
Clear. Clear backblast.
Back blast clear.
ODST man, go in an SOIEV vehicle and fight the Covenant.
Clear black glass.
Clear.
I still have my money down that the ODST guy you play as in that
The bot lost.
yeah, again, the range of thermal barrack, it went over and hit these guys. But I still have money down.
Clear backblast.
that the ODST guy you play in that campaign is actually an Oni agent. I still have my money down.
Clear.
With all the shit you do in Access,
Clear back
you
there.
have to be Oni. It has to be.
Yep.
It wouldn't make sense if he wasn't. Alright, let's hold fire. Alright, so what'd you guys notice about the RPG? What were your thoughts?
Bit quicker firing.
Also a bit more inaccurate than the other things because no laser rangefinder.
Yep.
Well,
Easy to learn, hard to master. I got bored while you were launching, so you can laugh, I don't care. Now, that is all I'm going to tell you about rocket launchers. Now we're going to talk about missile launchers. Now, the difference between a rocket and a missile is that the missile knows where it is.
oh no.
Oh, God. Because it knows where it isn't. But in actuality, missile launchers are unique because when you fire it, it has either lock-on capability or the user who fired it has some control over where it goes. So, let's talk about the Titan real quick. Now, this is where it's going to get a little funky because I need to talk about vanilla and modded. Modded being Ace because when you put on Ace, the Titans act like javelins. When you don't use Ace and you use other mods under the sun, the Titans act like regular lock-on stuff. So, let's look at the metas instead. I just wanted to bring up the Titan to mention it, because right now the Titans are just going to work like javelins, but we'll get to those. So, metas, if you were to look down the site, first off, you're going to notice that if you hit the T key, you can get a range on your target. Also, if anything is... Oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking right now. If anything is... Jesus, okay. If anything has an engine on, you'll also be able to lock on with the T key when, if it has its engine hot. Now, in order to tell if the engine's hot, you can hit the N key and cycle through two different types of thermal vision, white hot and black hot, and it gives a little orange thing. So if you look at that BMP, for example, you'll see that that fire's hot, for example. The infantry are hot. The bunnies you see on the runway are hot. The dead goat is hot. You won't be able to lock onto vehicles that aren't hot because there's no heat for the launcher to lock onto. So, another thing about missile launchers, guys, is if you fire them, you do have some control, but you want to make sure you don't overcorrect or whatnot, because the missile does its best to follow your little dot in the middle. However, if you are, rapidly moving left and right, the missile will, follow that. It's quite possible the missile will go over or under your target, or too far to the left or too far to the right. I highly recommend for this section, when I clear you guys, that you fire a Metis, and you just sway it left and right to see how the missile works. But again, that's pretty unique to the Metis in terms of how it, wobbles to left and right. The Titan has a lot less wobbliness to it when it is vanilla. But I digress. That is all for the Metis. And again, the Titan works similarly if you don't have Ace on. But let's talk about the Javelin. Now, Javelin's a really unique launcher because if you look into it and pull the trigger, you're going to notice that you can't fire it blind. It has to be fired with a lock. Also, it has a unique lock function. To lock, you have to hold tab. However, if you are looking through it and hold tab right now, you're not going to be able to get a lock. You have to use one of its two thermal visions. It's white hot or black hot. Otherwise, it will not lock. Also, there are two different types of fire modes with this launcher. Same goes for most missile launchers. If you hit the F key, you'll notice that you switch between top-down and direct. Top-down being if you're fighting tanks and you want to hit the weakest part of the armor, and direct if you want to fire directly at it. Do note that if you're firing at a vehicle that has countermeasures, or a warning system, and it's moving and does top-down, and you do a top-down against it, the top-down might miss because the vehicle might move to a different section within the smoke countermeasures it makes, and thus top-down doesn't become as effective. So, use top-down against things that are, you know, old enough to not have countermeasure systems. And then direct, if you're firing it, you know, it goes up and flies directly at the vehicle. It's a lot harder for the vehicle to dodge that because it has less flight time in the arc. Now, to lock on, like I said, you hold tab once you're in the thermal vision. Now, you're going to notice that, you know, it lines up a little picture of what you're firing at, makes a cross. The seek button on the top right will also line up when it is ready to go. And if you look around while you're holding tab and hearing beeping, it'll look at whatever's at the center of your screen. Now, because of how this launcher works, it takes a picture with the clue system and tells the launcher, hey, hit this picture, even if it's moving. It doesn't really rely on thermals or whatnot, and thus, this is a very powerful missile system. It can be flared off and whatnot, but it's very difficult. So this can be used against ground vehicles, air vehicles, infantrymen, bunnies, anything that technically can produce a thermal signature. This thing can technically lock onto it. It's silly, but hey, welcome to your video game. So, what?
You want to hear a fun fact about the Javelin?
Yeah, shoot.
So, for one rocket to be fired, it's cost 30,000 to get a new one.
Cack. Yeah, the tubes are expensive, but we don't really care about pricing unless you're doing a PMC campaign and somehow have access to javelins. But digressing, do also note that with the RHS system, it comes with the clue and the missile tube. The clue being the little camera you're using to sight stuff. There are mods out there, for example 3CB, where you have just the clue system and the missile tube, and it is a ACE interaction under equipment to link and de-link the clue missile system to a used tube. But for RHS, they're just reloadable. So, anyone have any questions on how to use this thing?
Seems simple enough.
Yep. Alright. Well, range is hot, guys. Have fun. Oh, wait, no. Last thing. Roll back in. The Metis is effective up to 1.5 clicks. The Javelin is effective up to, I think, like 3 clicks. I think it's supposed to be bigger, but we've never had AT men fire at things farther than 3 clicks, so usually your render distance peters out by then anyway. But, yep, that's all I need to say. Range is hot, guys. Have fun.
Clear back glass?
That's a PGO site. The missile knows where it is.
Clear back glass.
It knows this because it knows where it isn't.
That fucking weird.
Hopefully then.
Oh god, it turned on!
I said clear back glass.
Well,
Hey, Liru.
All my infantry's dead. Give the Metis a try too, guys. Thank God I didn't put nuclear warheads in that puppy, because the cook-off would be nasty.
Corporal.
What?
You just scared the shit out of me. Firing that thing.
So do also note, guys, we do have prone launcher, so you can fire while prone if you feel like it.
Clear.
They kill my off-road again. That's a little inside joke.
Clear back glass.
My poor bear.
Live block lost.
Oh, by default it spawns with nukes? Oh, we should be dead then. Cack. Hooray for failsafes.
Clear back blast.
Alright, hold fire, hold fire. Let's bring it in. It's very easy to play point and click simulator, I know. Yeah, so these are your types of missile systems that you reserve for tanks and stuff, if you're not given, like, air support or whatever. So, digressing, guys, don't use these against, like, gun trucks and stuff. Also, one final thing I'll say is if you go to the Metis and you, this is the AA section, my bad. If you look at the Metis and you look at its ammo types, you'll see that you have HE, AT, and HE. Don't bring HE because it takes up a lot of space, and if you're given this type of launcher, you're meant to be using it against big tanks. So, only bring HE if you have, like, a transport vehicle and you just want to bring a few for memes. But, digressing aside, let's go look at AA launchers. So, AA is super duper simple, guys. For our two launcher systems, first off, you're going to notice that the Titan MLR, MLP, whatever the frick, is here because, again, with Vanilla, it's meant to be an AA launcher. If you have Ace, it acts like a Javelin. You can lock Javelin onto aircraft. So, that is a thing. But, like I said, you have your Chad Stinger, and you have your piece of shit Igla. I call this a piece of shit because the Igla is, well, a piece of shit. So if you have the difference of choosing between a Stinger and an Igla, always choose the Stinger, because to give you a comparison, on average it took me 7 Igla shots to shoot down an A-10, because they kept flaring it off, but the Stinger only took 3. I'm not sure if those have been updated yet, but I just don't like the Igla. Fuck the Igla. It took me 22 Igla rounds to shoot Ruling Commander down in an A-10. I hate the Igla.
You're firing Iglas against an A-10. That's your first problem.
Oh, trust me, it's even worse against an air superiority jet that can move a lot quicker. But I digress. So, to fire one of these launchers, it's really, really simple, guys. You literally just look at it and it locks for you. If for whatever reason it's locking on the wrong target or you're impatient, just lightly tap the T key once every few seconds until you hear a wah. And then it'll tell you when it's locked on by giving a little dot on it. You'll hear a little beeping, and then you can, you know, launch it. Now, here's the thing, guys. You don't, even though this is an AA launcher, you don't want to fire it like this. Why do you not want to fire it like this?
Backblast.
Backblast! Now, second thing. Why do you not want to fire it? Let's say you're parallel and you're trying to line up your launcher exactly with the, you know, target you're shooting at. And you're trying to fire it, like, directly at a tank like this or something. Why is this a bad idea?
Because it's not getting a lock on.
Well, okay, yeah, for one, it's not going to get a lock. There's a reason the sight has it lined up so your tube is a little up in the air. But
It's because the missile will drop out of the tube and hit the ground.
correct. The missile drops a little bit before it kicks in and locks on the target. A few months ago, I was in an op where the guy was on the side of a hill, and there was an aircraft flying really, really low. It was a 24 trying to kill us. So he lined it up pretty much to the ground, and then the missile dropped to the floor, and I happened to be next to it. And I spent the rest of that op being medicked up and carried out of the AO, and I was rightfully pissed. So, be careful about that. Also, don't use an AA launcher against ground vehicles, because your warhead is not going to do a lot of damage. If you actually compare sizes of tubes, you're going to notice that these tubes are a lot bigger. AA is just meant to put a hole in the aircraft to make it go down, while these are meant to, you know, destroy entire subsystems in the Vic. Now, when you're taking on aircraft, the one time... you generally don't want to hit aircraft when they're flying right above you, because, again, if you're, you know, doing your lock-on, and you have it fly right above you, and you fire, you're going to backblast yourself and have a bad time. If it is doing an evasive maneuver, cutting left or cutting right, and you fire, well, it's already doing that evasive maneuver and flaring off. It can easily do a second one. You're going to have a bad time. Best time to hit vehicles if it is a helicopter, you want to hit it when it is either moving directly away from you or perpendicular to you from the left or right. I am also going to argue and say that the best time to hit a vehicle is also during a gun run, but when it is very far off. That's because, A, the missile lock is going to make him abandon the gun run, and B, it's very hard for a pilot who's dedicated into some sort of gun run to then pull off left or right because the missile is going to be right there by the time he tries to make it. However, if he's about to fly over you, like I said, you don't want to use it because then you're going to backblast yourself. Planes, you generally want to fire when it's either moving away from you or towards you. Because left or right, it can easily do an evasive maneuver. However, worst comes to worst, just take the shot because people are going to bitch at you if you don't take the shot. Get my point?
Takes a shot. Got it.
Yep. Anyone have any questions over anything we just learned?
Nope.
Alright, cool. So that's AT train. I'll see you guys in Grenadier. Now I'm going to kill this late joiner. See you in Grenadier! See, I don't want to respawn because I'd lose my goats. And I like my goats. So, this is going to talk about the two Grenadier systems. You have your Blue 4 and your literally the rest of the world. Again, this isn't every type of Grenadier rifle in the game. However, it encompasses the basics, blah, blah, blah. So, we're going to talk about both of them, and then I'll let you guys shoot them on the range. So, we have, first off, your 203, your 320, and your 3GL. Also on the table, there is a 6-shooter, which is literally just a 6-shot Grenadier rifle. You sometimes see it once in a while in our ops for a little bit of fun meme stuff. But 3-shot, guys, it's really simple. You get a little red dot, you page up and page down, and you fire your first and even possibly your second round for the sake of ranging your shot in, and then, depending on how many used, you have 2 or 3 shots to, you know, hit directly on target. So, that's the purpose of a 3GL. Now, we have 2 systems here. You have the 203 and the 320. 203 was the first system made after the Vietnam War when they realized that, hey, we can give a rifle to the guys we're giving our China Lakes. So, what's nice about this system is you can range it up to 250 meters and pretty much fire any Grenadier round used by Blue Force systems. However, what is the problem with this rifle? There's a very distinct problem.
You need a lot of space to shoot it.
No.
Mm-mm.
Shush you.
I'll shoot your goats.
They're invincible, bitch.
Fuck.
Yep. Okay, here's the problem. Look at the Grenadier sight. Actually scroll into it. Page up and page down it. What if you have an ACOG on the top of your gun? It's going to get in the way, right? You're not going to be able to use it. So, because fun fact, rifleman-based sights like ACOGs and stuff weren't really a thing till like the late 1990s, early 2000s. So, still pretty recent in my opinion. But, in order to fix that, the US government made the 320 system, which now puts the Grenadier sight on your left. Also, if you look on the table, you'll see that there's a 320 launcher on it because you can actually bring that as a secondary weapon in case you don't have 320 weapon systems. But what's also nice about this is they gave you an extra 100 meters of sight. Well, bitch.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, what I just brought up right there is that some of these Grenadier rounds have minimum det distances. So if you fire them point blank into Barbarian, they're not going to det. So you're better off just using your bullets. Capiche? Yeah, he's my bitch now, because he's a 3 and I don't know why he's here. But it's okay. So, that's also true for the GP25 system now, so keep that in mind. But let's go over the different types of Grenadier rounds. There are quite a few, and they're really cool. Also, guys, I need you all to go into the arsenal, go to your backpack, hit the plus key, and I need you to grab a Hunt IR monitor, because it's going to be needed for one of the types of ammunition we're going to use. So, I am just going to quickly grab one of everything here. Also, when you grab this rifle, you're going to notice that you have an M441 HE grenade round. If you ever see something with a specific designation, but it looks like that 40mm HE grenade round, it's just a fancy way of saying that it is a basic HE round. So, that's all you need to know about that. But, digressing. You have your basic 40mm grenade round. This is meant to just kill stupid dancers. It helps if I load it. So, really simple. You sight it, you point, shoot. It blows up. And it has a bit of a large range. So I probably fired that, I want to say, about 25, 30 meters away. So do note that it has quite a big range. I mean, let's see. Where are you damaged? A little bit in the torso. So, you know, shrapnel is a thing, guys, so be mindful of that. Next, you have your HEDP grenade. I mentioned this earlier. Your dual purpose. It's meant to blow up vehicles as well as kill infantry. Now, this round won't really blow vehicles up per se. However, if you're fighting things like BTR 60s or 70s, lightly armored APCs or gun trucks, this is the type of round you aim for the front of the vehicle for, because it penetrates and then detonates, and it'll kill the crew inside. So I've actually seen people fire this type of round into BTR 60s in the back and kill half to the entire squad that was riding in the back trying to dismount, because they were all tightly together and the round penetrated the vehicle. Also, you can kill crewmen with this Vic. But only lightly armored ones. So things like BMPs or IFEs, this round won't really do anything to. So you just fire this out. I'm going to aim for that MiG, for example. And I pretty much hit it in the tire. So, not going to lie, if you can disable landing gear of a vehicle, sometimes it actually breaks it and the vehicle will fall into the ground and blow up. It's quite hilarious. Next, you have your HET grenade. I mentioned this one in AT training. You fire this, and it's going to do a little bounce. Bounces in the air, increases the surface area, and if I were to fire that where Barbarian was, that would have probably knocked some of us unconscious with shrapnel, because it being in the air and this HESCO not being here to protect us would have, you know, put it at head level to hit us all and knock us out, since we don't have any body armor on. Next round, your GL stun. No, you're out there. Go out there, buddy. You chose this. So I'm not sure if any of you have embraced RHS stun before, but it is some of the worst ear rape you can ever get. Now do note there is a little bit of a delay, but it will literally blind you and ear rape you for a good 10 seconds. What it actually does is it also knocks the AI in an animation where they go crouched and kind of grab their heads and shake for 10 seconds. So that'll then let you, you know, breach a building, kill the guys, capture an HVT and whatnot. Barb, are you actually damaged?
Nope.
Okay. So, with a recent RHS update from about a month ago, they this round actually used to, like, kill unarmored targets, which is why we never used it. But RHS did an update to fix it. Yeah, they finally fixed it. RHS updates slowly, and we mean them all the time. But now you see ops where people use these types of rounds and to great effectiveness. But be careful, because if you misuse it, you're going to probably throw your headset against the wall if you're not ready for it. So, next site, we have our buckshot round. You don't use this ever, because what's more effective? This, or this? Because you gotta remember, you have to then reload the round ammunition. The only time I've actually had buckshot used properly in an op is I gave it to the 6-shot Grenadier rifle and literally turned them into a shotgunner. But that's because, you know, they have 6 rounds, so it can actually be effectively used by a shotgun. Yeah, I know, but I didn't want to give him HE because I was a dick.
Oh, I know.
So, you know, it's a very niche ammunition type that you'll probably never use, but we still teach it because you never know. Now, you have your flare rounds. Okay, so with the flare, I had a little brain fart there, my apologies. Premise is simple. You fire it in the air, it illuminates. However, the illumination sucks unless you're doing a Vietnam op where your flares are little portable nuclear suns that you fire in the air and illuminate like an entire clique around you. In most other ops, the illumination is very small. So what you want to do is you want to put this where your enemy is. So I'm going to put it out to where Barbarian is, and that's going to illuminate his position. It is an IR flare, and do note that it bounced under the MI8 and is actually behind it by that group of Chads, but it's going to illuminate their position. So if you have night vision on, for example, and you need to illuminate something to your infantry or your air asset, you fire it at their feet because that flare is going to burn for 30 seconds, and it's much easier for people to spot infantry if they're by a light source, even with night vision, because the flares aren't that bright. Or for air to be told as a JTAC, which, by the way, if you're JTAC, you're almost always going to get a Grenadier rifle to, you know, hit whatever by the flare. Capiche? I'm going to take a quick second. Anyone have any questions so far on anything?
How did I grab the Hunt IR again?
What Hunt IR? The terminal?
Yeah.
Alright, you go to Arsenal, you go to your backpack, you then hit the plus icon for miscellaneous icons, and then just hit the plus next to the Hunt IR monitor.
Oh. I hit plus on my keyboard and
I'm
was
gonna
wondering
do-
why
Oh,
it didn't
okay.
do anything.
Alright, so let me pull my round out. I know Undead already had these trainings, he was just sitting in. Now you have your smoke round. Smoke round works really similar to your flare round. It's just used in the daytime. It's again used for target acquisition. However, like we just saw with the flares bounce, watch this puppy bounce. And then it starts to ignite. So I fired that pretty much on the rear of the MiG, and it looks like it bounced a good 75 meters away. So these things bounce a lot. The bounce used to be a lot worse. I once bounced a Russian round to those two radio towers all the way back there. We'll get to that one eventually. But again, it's meant for area calling out a specific area to air assets. Not really ground assets, because A, you don't want to fire smoke at enemy infantry, because that's just going to conceal their position. But air doesn't care about concealment. Air can level the entire thing. So smoke rounds are generally used to do target acquisition. Some communities also use smoke rounds for concealment. However, they also have done a lot of things to heavily modify the bounce of their Grenadier rounds, so it's, you know, pin perfect. So here we don't really use it for concealing our movements. We just use throwable smoke grenades for that. Last but not least,
Also
you
cover
have...
over concealment.
Hmm?
Also cover over concealment.
Well, obviously, but smoke is never cover, it's just concealment. And then you have your last round, your Hunt IR. This is the only round, I would say, that you want to fire directly in the air. First, I'd say do Shift K, because you need to account for wind, because you don't want this thing blowing into enemies and aggroing them. That's because you're pretty much firing a camera in the air. So, you fire it, you're going to see a little puff of smoke. There it is. And then you have a parachute with a camera on it, which is literally the round you fired. If you then do Control Windows, go to Equipment, activate Hunt IR Monitor, it is going to say searching for a little bit. And then connecting. And then you have access to a little camera. Now, fun fact, everyone can access this camera as long as you have a Hunt IR monitor. Usually it's just one person, but, you know, it's a video game. So, to move around, you just use the arrow keys. To zoom in, you hit the D key. To zoom out, you hit the A key. If you have multiple Hunt IR rounds, you can use W and S to toggle through them, and it also has night vision. Now, a few things it'll tell you. On the bottom left, it tells you the record time, which is how long the camera's been recording. That timer usually starts as soon as you fire that round. From the top left, you have your altitude, and you have a 4-digit and even 5-digit for the Y grid ref, aka your GPS pause. So if you don't know your grid ref, because you don't know how to read a map, you can pop one of these in the air and cheat by just reading off what it says. And then you also can see A, the level of zoom, and B, the number the camera is on the top right if you're cycling between multiple cameras. And then on the bottom, not necessarily on the right, but in the bottom right area, a little to the left, I'd say, you have north, south, east, and west showing you, you know, what direction you're looking at and stuff. Now, when that thing hits the ground, it is going to despawn, and AI do not aggro on it. However, if a Zeus sees that it lands at someone's feet, or they see a little parachute in the air, they're probably going to react to it. Also, fun fact, if you shoot it, might be a bit hard. Oh, I got it. You'll notice that it is now falling a little bit faster. If you put a few bullets in it, it falls super fast. However, it's not a ratio of the more bullets you put into it, the faller it falls down. There's a hard limit.
Somebody just destroyed it.
Oh shit! Did I?
Yeah, I think you did. I got.
It's still up.
Yeah, it's still up. But yeah, you can actually disable the round. And if you need to get out of that camera, you just hit escape. So yeah, that's something we give to people usually on the squad level because it tells them how to, gives them, in like an urban environment, it shows them, you know, where their position is in relation to the enemy, and it gives them, you know, good intel on, you know, how to react, let's say if they're trying to form a counterattack or something. Any questions on Blue 4 ammunition?
Nope.
Alright, then we're going to talk about Op 4 ammunition. / Green 4 / SAF / pretty much everything else. Now, what's nice about the ammunition for the GP25 system is that you can range it up to 400 meters, but essentially it's now a little hand mortar. So, also, it's really funny because right now I look taller than all of you. But now if I page down, I get at your level. So if you want to, like, you know, spam page up, you'll notice that you look like you get a little bit taller.
It's
But-
Liru's fantasy to be not short.
I digress. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the different types of ammunition. So, first off, you have the VOG-20... Is that it? Yeah, VOG-25. Let me just make sure I'm doing this in order. Yep, so VOG-25 is your standard HE round. You sight your target, you fire it, and then you go prone. Now, you're going to notice that he ate that. But that's your standard HE round. It works like Blue 4 HE. You range it and you shoot. Now you have your VOG-25P. Now, if you're loading these with me, you're also going to notice on the top right, it's going to tell you that's an HET grenade. Simply put, you fire it and it bounces. Now, this might still be broken. Yep, it's still broken. So, it did a large bounce, bounced a little farther back, and then detonated when it hit the ground again. I don't know why, but they increased the fuse times of HET grenades. So what I recommend to people right now is until they fix it, you can fire this in a big building like this warehouse over here. And, you know, have it really bounce inside and then detonate. So use it more for buildings instead of open areas. Because open areas, it can bounce around quite a lot. So, next round I'm going to go over is your VG40TB. This is your thermobaric round, one of the unique rounds of GP25. It also gives a really, really cool effect, and that's how you know people are using it. That is all of that oxygen being consumed in a fiery fucking explosion. And you'll also notice, a big suck, yeah, Barbarian is dead again. And I only fire that in front of him, didn't even try to aim for him directly. So if you ever have the choice against infantry, you want to use this round. The only concern there is, because it used to make this really nice flash effect, now it makes a giant explosion effect. So you got to be concerned about if you fire this in a building, a lot of smoke's going to be generated for a few seconds and temporarily conceal the enemy. Also, when you fire these rounds, the AI will aggro on you and start shooting at you, so you might accidentally conceal them for a few seconds, but they'll still fire at your previous position. You've been warned. Now, your VG40SZ round is your Russian stun round. You fire it. There's the stun effect. Now, he is not wounded or anything. However, he is probably in a lot of... Yep, there it is. Because, yeah, that hurts. It hurts a lot. Then you have your VG40OP round. Let's see. This is your flare round. So, again, you fire it at his feet. It illuminates. Oh, we didn't get a bounce that time. Cool. I think because it ricocheted on his feet. But, guys, there's a bad guy over there. See? Easy to see him once he has the flare if it's at night. Then you have your GRD 40. This is your smoke grenade. There's two different types of smokes, by the way. I just train on the one because the other one has a pretty nasty bounce. So yeah, flare didn't bounce around like the blue 4 one. That's good, but this smoke one, just watch this. It's gonna probably take out that fence. Nope, it landed on the fence this time. So this round will bounce around a lot. We got really lucky there, and it bounced and then just rode the slope up, so it didn't do that much. But I'd recommend you try firing that round a bit because, yeah, you'll notice that it bounces around like crazy. Now, and then you have your, I forgot to read off the name while I was loading it, your GDM-40, another unique round to the GP25 system, also known as your fast smoke. So, hypothetical situation, let's say Barbarian was over here being our squad leader, and he was being a dum-dum, and where that red smoke is, there is a squad ready to ambush us, and this HESCO barrier isn't here, and we're technically in the open. Let's say that the buildings are a bit further away, and we're completely exposed, and we need to pop concealment and run away. The issue is, smoke grenades are going to take 3 to 5 seconds to properly billow out. But me, being the Chad that I am, already loaded this round in my launcher because I predicted something like this. When I fire this, instant concealment for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now you see that area over there is exposed to us again. So depending on how strong the wind's blowing, you have 5 to 10 seconds for your smoke grenades to billow out, because while you're firing that round, your friendlies are popping smoke grenades, they're picking up whoever's down, and you're going to then run over to a building and get yourself patched up and hopefully flank that enemy or avoid them depending on what your AO is. Very niche round. I've only used it twice in this community, but both times our squad had a lot less casualties than the other 2 in 1 op and 3 in the second op. Now, a little lesson about smoke, guys. Remember, it conceals. AI will still shoot at you, but if you go prone and start moving around, the AI will only shoot at your last position. So if you're very quick about it, you can easily disengage. That's something a lot of people tend to forget. That is all of the GP25 based rounds. Does anyone have any questions over that or anything we've gone over?
Negative.
Alright, I'm going to spawn a bunch of Chads, and you guys can go to town. While you do that, I am going to also put everything on the spreadsheet for you guys. Whew. Little hiccup there, I apologize.
Things to have this training cleared, because I gotta take out the Christmas tree.
Bloopy, I can remember your name. You can go now. You don't have to shoot stuff. I just asked because I gotta, you know, have you here so I can reference your names and reference you on the spreadsheet. But yeah, otherwise you're clear to go. Feel free to shoot at Barbarian. I'm gonna quickly tab out.
Alright.
Alright, so,
How quick I still get to shoot?
let me now go on to our spreadsheet and start marking names here. I'll do Bloopies first. Let me also check that Undead Cog had everything. Why do we have a guy with a frickin' asterisk in his name? Okay, so that's Cobalt Fist.
Liru, give me a PTR to drive around.
We're gonna have a little desync spike. I'm gonna give Barbarian Zeus. So,
Yay!
there.
Oh. Barbarian, now you can torch for us. Oh, he did drop it out of the...
Okay, so that's that. Let me scroll down. Undead should be in the tier 2 section. Yeah, so we had all the trains. Cool. So,
Now the question is, did I load Zeus cache?
Okay, is Zeus Cache any good?
yes.
It is
Yes?
so good.
And so... Okay. And is it signed on the server?
Yep.
So if I just have it loaded inside the main mod set, I can have it on the server
Only
as well.
only have it loaded if you're a Zeus though. If you load it in any of our offs with and you're not the Zeus, we're gonna kick you off because of how it works. And if too many people load in with it, then it has a possibility of causing some issues. But yeah, just don't. All right, and Ren. There he is. Alright, you guys are all tagged, so feel free to shoot on the range. Barbarian will drive around a few things, but you guys are free to go. Thank you for participating. I'll BRB 1 sec. Alright, and to the stream. Our next one will be at, let's see, it's 11:30 now, so I can guarantee that we'll be here for the 4 o'clock mission, the Friday one. Friday public one, and I'll also play in the 6:30 one, but I don't know if we're going to be starting that at 6:30 or 7:30. And then we also have Warcraft tonight. I'm just going to check my ads, make sure people are going to show up to that. But that is going to be it for this one. If I have the time, because I'm still setting up the Friday op, I'll also play in our 131 and stream that. Again, Friday being my big stream day. Just do note, guys, I am taking Saturday off because Bloodway and I are going to have a chill day because I start classes next week. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you learned something. Thanks for chilling. Go operate operationally. Enjoy the rest of your day or night. Otherwise, cheers, and hopefully I'll see you later today.